this out.
There comes a time in everyone's journey when you want to move away from the ordinary and to the extraordinary, when the status quo is no longer good enough, when your passion becomes greater than practicability and you want to expand your horizons and achieve goals that you had not yet achieved in the past. For me, that time has come. And to achieve these goals, to expand my horizons, to open my world, I'm installing a new pre-pro. That's right. I'm getting rid of my old Denon and I'm installing an Acurus Muse 16-channel processor. This thing is super cool and I'm super excited to be installing it. I've already done the video where I unboxed this device, which you can see here, and now we're going to actually go through the physical install so you can see what it takes to install this kind of processor. There are a lot of differences between the Muse, which is a higher end unit, compared to the Denon, which is more entry level, and this will require everything from extra amplification to new cables to a redesign of my whole cabinet. So in this video, we're going to start in my cabinet bottom to top and replace things and upgrade as needed, and I'll go through and explain each step so you understand why I'm doing it, so that when it's time for you to do it, you'll know what you need to do as well and be able to really get those plans in place before you get started and realize, oh, I don't have the cable I need, because you know what's worse than not having a cable that you need. That's never fun. So we've actually had a chance to talk to the Acurus folks on our podcast. You can find that right up here. Here's a link. So check that out too if you haven't done that so far, and it'll inform you a little bit more about the company, who they are, and what they're trying to achieve. Now, before we start, make sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, especially the subscribe button. We love subscribes. If you don't subscribe, we're going to come and, I don't know, take away your base or something. You would be very unhappy, right? You'll totally be unhappy if you don't subscribe. But with that, let's take a look at the Muse so you can remember what it looks like, and then we'll get right into the cabinet build. Before installing your Muse, you need to decide on the type of amplification that you're going to use. And what I really mean by that is how many channels do you need, and then how will these amplifiers connect back up to the Muse. In my case, I'm going to run 9 bed channels, 4 Atmos channels, and a single subwoofer channel. So that gives me 13 channels of speakers and 1 channel of subwoofers that will need amplification. Half my amplification is connected via XLR, and that's the Starke Sound A7 that you saw there at the bottom of the rack. But I also have 3 audio source amps that I'll be using as temporary amplification, and those are all RCA connected. So for those, I'll be using adapters that adapt from XLR coming out of the Muse to RCA, which then I can run down to the amps. And you'll see me do all of that installation here in just a second. While getting your cables in place, I recommend that you take this time to go ahead and label them. Not everyone does this, but if you label both sides of the cables, it becomes a lot easier to troubleshoot problems down the road if something comes loose or you can't figure out why something doesn't work exactly the way it ought to. And this picture is an image of the back of my A7 after I've got all the XLRs labeled and plugged in. You can also see that I've gone ahead and plugged in the speaker leads that run out to the speakers themselves. With all of your amplification in place, now it's time to either remove the cables from your old AVR and pull that out, or go ahead and slide the new Muse in. One thing you'll notice is the Muse is small. In the video, you can see I'm using a Denon 4400X, and it is a monster and super complex on the back compared to the Muse. The Muse is super small, super simple, and very elegant. I really like that white back panel. It makes attaching cables much easier than the typical black back panel that you have on a lot of the different processors and AVRs out there. Now it's time to cable this bad boy up. We'll start out with our inputs at the top left. So these are the HDMI cables that come from your home theater PC, streamer, that kind of stuff. On the right-hand side in the bottom, we'll connect Ethernet, super important, right? Because we'll be able to use that to actually control this box later. From there, things get a little bit more fun. We need to attach the XLR cables for our pre-outs that will run to our amplifiers. Now, it's important to understand what your speaker layout is, because when you attach the Tetra cable to that auxiliary output, which breaks out that DB9 to 4 XLRs, those are going to map to different channels depending on what your speaker layout is. If you look in the back of the instructions, it'll show you exactly how everything maps, so you can know exactly how you want to connect it. Now, if you need to connect RCA cables to this, you'll need to get XLR to RCA adapters and plug those in. Then you can connect your RCA and run that to your amplifier. Now we need to power up a little bass. So this is the Behringer NU6000, the old iNuke. It's a 2-channel Pro amp that a lot of people use to power DIY subs, Martys, and that kind of stuff. And that's what I use. So I'll be using this to power 2 18-inch Marty cubes from GSG Audio. Click on the link above and you can see the build for those subwoofers. Next up, we'll drop in our home theater PC. And this is a custom build that I did a little while back, and it'll go into a shelf that extends all the way to the back of the cabinet because it is quite heavy. At this point, we'll go ahead and connect the rest of our amplifiers using RCA cables up to those RCA to XLR converters that we installed in the back of the Muse. We'll clean up cabling just a bit and also add in all of the power cables that we had skipped up to this point. And that is pretty much all it takes to physically install an Acurus Muse. Now, let's take a look at the rack from top to bottom so you can see everything that we've got going on. Now, we didn't talk about everything, kind of like the PDUs there we didn't talk about 12-volt triggers, but if you have questions about those, drop that down in the comments below and I'll get you some details out covering those specific items for you. But now, since you've seen the rack top to bottom, you've seen all the bits and pieces, let's take a look and see what happens when we push the power button on the Muse. Is it going to work? Will we be happy? Let's see.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And that's what I call a fun Saturday afternoon. So now that you've seen how you physically install a Muse, the next piece is how you configure the Muse. And this is way different than kind of the on-screen display setup process that you would go through with a Marantz or a Denon. So I really encourage you to smash that like button, punch the subscribe button, and then tap on the bell for notifications so that when that video drops, you'll be sure to be able to check it out. So until you've seen all three pieces, the unboxing, the install, and the setup, you won't have a complete picture of kind of the Muse experience. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.